The wind on the rooftop of Fort Kincaid Military Academy was sharp, cutting across the concrete like a blade. Flags snapped violently against their poles, and the distant sound of marching cadets echoed faintly from the parade ground below. It was early evening, training hours officially over, but the academy never truly slept. Emily Carter stood near the edge of the rooftop, hands resting calmly on the cold railing, eyes fixed on the horizon. From a distance, she looked unremarkable. Quiet, almost fragile. Her dark hair was tied neatly back, her posture relaxed, her uniform plain and unadorned. To anyone watching casually, she looked like just another staff member, someone who preferred solitude over attention. What no one could see were the invisible scars beneath that uniform. The kind forged in deserts, jungles, and cities whose names were never spoken aloud. Scars earned in silence. Emily had come to Fort Kincaid for one reason: to teach leadership ethics and tactical discipline to future officers. Officially, she was listed as a civilian instructor with prior service. Unofficially, her real file was locked behind clearance levels most people at the academy would never reach. She liked the rooftop because it reminded her of the quiet moments between missions. The waiting, the stillness before chaos. That stillness didn't last. Laughter broke the air behind her, sharp, mocking, careless. Heavy boots scraped against concrete as a group of senior cadets emerged from the stairwell door. There were 4 of them. Tall, confident, decorated with the arrogance that sometimes came from rank without wisdom. They had noticed Emily before. Everyone had. She kept to herself, avoided gossip, spoke only when necessary. To men like them, silence looked like weakness. "Well, look at this," one of them said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't expect to find anyone up here." Emily didn't turn around. Another cadet chuckled. "She's that quiet instructor, right? Always watching, never talking. Probably thinks she's better than us," a third added. "Standing there like she owns the place." They spread out slowly, forming a loose semicircle behind her. Not close enough to be obvious. Not far enough to be innocent. Emily felt them without looking. The change in air pressure. The shift in sound. Her body responded instinctively, muscles tightening just enough to be ready. Years of training never left you. They just slept until needed. "Rooftops restricted after hours," the first cadet said loudly. "Didn't know civilians could wander wherever they wanted." Emily finally turned. Her face was calm, neutral. Her eyes held no fear, only a quiet, unreadable depth that unsettled them for just a fraction of a second. "I'm aware of the rules," she said evenly. Her voice was soft, controlled. "I'm allowed to be here." One of the cadets scoffed. "Says who?" "Says the commandant," she replied. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. They exchanged looks, grins widening. To them, this wasn't about rules. It was about dominance. About proving something to themselves and each other. "You don't look like much," another cadet said, stepping closer. "Hard to believe you're teaching us anything about combat or leadership." Emily studied his stance automatically. Weight too far forward, hands tense, ego loud. "Leadership isn't about how you look," she said. That earned a laugh. "Oh, listen to her," one said mockingly. "You hear that, guys? She's giving us a lecture." They circled closer now, too close. Emily exhaled slowly. "Back off," she said. Still calm, still quiet, but something in her tone changed. Subtle, dangerous. The cadets didn't hear the warning. Or maybe they did, and ignored it. "What if we don't?" the tallest one said, stepping into her personal space. "What are you gonna do about it?" For a moment, time stretched. Emily saw it all with crystal clarity. Their breathing, the twitch of a hand, the tension before stupidity turned into violence. She had been in rooms where men like this carried rifles and worse intentions. Compared to those moments, this was nothing. But it was still wrong. Before she could respond, one of them shoved her shoulder lightly. Not enough to knock her back. Just enough to humiliate. That was the mistake. Emily moved. To the untrained eye, it looked like chaos. In reality, it was precision. She pivoted, deflecting the next grab with a sharp twist of her arm, using the cadet's momentum against him. He stumbled forward, shocked. Another reached for her from behind. She dropped her center of gravity, elbow striking ribs with controlled force, just enough to incapacitate without permanent damage. The rooftop filled with gasps and curses. What the? The third cadet rushed her blindly. Emily sidestepped, hooked his leg, and sent him sprawling hard against the concrete. The fourth froze, suddenly aware that something was very, very wrong. Emily stood still again, breathing steady, heart rate controlled. "I told you to back off," she said. The cadet stared at her, not angry now. Afraid. Alarms echoed in the distance as someone below noticed the commotion. Footsteps thundered up the stairwell. Security officers burst onto the rooftop, weapons raised, then stopped cold at the sight in front of them. 3 senior cadets on the ground. One standing in shock, and Emily Carter, calm as stone. "What the hell happened here?" one officer demanded. Emily raised her hands slowly. "They violated protocol," she said. "I defended myself." The cadets tried to speak over each other, accusations spilling out. But their story didn't line up. Too many contradictions. Too much fear. Within minutes, command staff arrived. Then the commandant himself, a hard-eyed man with decades of service behind him. He looked at Emily, then at the cadets, then back at Emily again. "Is that true?" he asked her quietly. "Yes, sir." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Medical." Now, the cadets were escorted away. Not to their barracks, but to holding. Word spread fast. By morning, the academy was buzzing. Rumors flew, some exaggerated, some dangerously close to the truth. An emergency assembly was called. All cadets were ordered to attend. Emily stood at the back of the auditorium as the commandant stepped onto the stage. "Yesterday," he began, voice firm, "we witnessed a failure. Not of strength, but of character." Screens behind him lit up with security footage. Silent, clear, unforgiving. The cadets watched as their peers cornered Emily. Watched as arrogance turned to humiliation. "There is no place at Fort Kincaid for bullying, harassment, or abuse of authority," the commandant continued. "And there is certainly no place for disrespect toward those who have already paid their dues." He turned slightly toward Emily. "Emily Carter is not just an instructor," he said. "She is a retired Navy SEAL combat veteran." The room went dead silent. She served 20 years in classified operations. She survived missions most of you will never hear about. She lost teammates. She saved lives. And she came here to teach. Quietly, because she believes in shaping leaders the right way. Faces drained of color. The cadets involved have been expelled effective immediately. A collective breath swept the room. Emily didn't look at them. She didn't need to. After the assembly, cadets approached her one by one. Some apologized. Some thanked her. Some simply nodded with new respect. Emily listened. She accepted what was genuine. She ignored what wasn't. Change didn't happen overnight, but it began. New protocols were introduced. Ethics training expanded. Reporting systems strengthened. The toxic culture that had been whispered about for years was finally dragged into the light. Weeks later, Emily stood on the rooftop again. Same wind, same sky, but it felt different now. The academy below her marched with sharper discipline. Quieter egos, straighter backs. She smiled faintly. Justice hadn't come from violence. It came from truth, restraint, and strength under control. The kind only real warriors ever learn. And Fort Kincaid would never be the same again. If you want to see even better stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment, and press the bell icon for more updates.